All right, welcome back, Pitch Grounders. We're back today with Dragos from Archbee, and we're going to be here discussing more about the product. We're going to go more in depth in our features and how these features can be beneficial to your business. So, good evening, Dragos. Good morning to me here in the East Coast of New York. We're happy to have you back here joining us today to discuss your product as well as the features of your product. So for our new viewers joining us today, can you just give us a quick outline of what Archbee is? Because I saw a lot of people asking that question in our Facebook group, and then we can go on with the rest of our questions for today.
Hello, Richard. Thanks for having me here. Hello to all pitch grounders listening to this stuff. To answer your question, Archbee is a new type of tool that helps teams get together and align in certain knowledge aspects. So if you think about Slack or Jira, basically Archbee is the missing third point in that space. Slack is handling real-time communication. Jira is handling planning and stuff like that, and timeline-based stuff. And Archbee is handling knowledge, how do I call it? Knowledge management. Basically, the knowledge that your company accumulates over time will help your company become more efficient and onboard people faster, but we'll talk about this later.
Awesome. So the theme for today's call is how to eliminate miscommunication in your business. So one question that was brought up is, why is it important to document your processes?
It's very important because sometimes we grow very fast with our companies or with our products or with our customers, and a lot of stuff slips through the cracks and only remains as tribal knowledge for your company. So tribal knowledge is basically the stuff that's in people's heads and it's never written down. And as maybe people leave your company and other people join, they're not going to have access to that information. Maybe you as a founder and your initial team are going to forget about that stuff, and it's going to be hard to remember the context in which you've taken some decisions. It's going to be hard for you to present documentation to your customers, either if you're building your own product, or if you're building another company's product, doing outsourcing, or even if you're doing agency work like marketing and setting up different systems online for email or marketing automation or blogging. So all this stuff that I'm talking right now, including stuff from the engineering team like architecture diagrams, API docs, all of that stuff sits under the umbrella of knowledge. It's basically what I think a company builds is knowledge, and the product is the byproduct of knowledge.
Right, I agree 100%. So typically, like you mentioned, because a lot of companies may not necessarily be documenting their processes correctly, it can cause problems in the workplace where one department is working on the project and another department is working on the same project, and they're making mistakes because they're now not communicating with each other or documenting their workflow, correct?
Yeah.
And it can scale for agencies as well. I can imagine when an agency works with their client, and if the clients don't get the necessary information or don't get onboarded correctly, then the client's not going to be too happy about the result.
You are 100% spot on with this observation. This is what I've noticed myself working with a bunch of companies as a consultant.
Okay, and so can we talk more about the alignment for the team once you have Archbee in place in their business?
Sure. So let's continue the example that you started with maybe two different departments in a company working on the same project, and there's miscommunication between them. Of course, there's never enough communication, but there's basically two types of communication. There's synchronous communication and asynchronous communication. So synchronous is what we're doing right now, basically talking face to face or directly in the office or on a Zoom call. And that's synchronous communication. But there's also asynchronous communication, which I think it's more important uh, than synchronous, and especially today where more teams than ever are remote, and more teams are becoming remote. So asynchronous communication is the stuff that uh, somebody writes down somewhere, not necessarily to write it down as words, because it can have different forms, like I mentioned. It can be an architecture diagram or an API docs or some comments about why a UI designer picked some design pattern instead of the other. So the asynchronous communication plays also a large role in how we build our companies.
Okay.
And this is basically the problem that I want to solve with my Archbee. And this is actually a problem that's not solved well by any other stuff out there. This is why I had the confidence of going all in on this.
Awesome. So let's say let's take the agency example.
So
So let's say I'm an agency and I want to onboard a new client with my staff. How do we enable that type of a smooth transition? Do you have like templates in place? Do you have some sort of workflow that you can copy and paste from one client to another? How's that setup like with Archbee?
well, Archbee solved this problem in two ways. We have some system level templates that you can use. For example, you have a marketing campaign and how it's set up, and you can start from that. You have an executive uh, memo. You have an engineering specification. You have, uh, if you're an engineer, you might say you might have some commands that you run in your Docker or Kubernetes environment. Uh, and you can start from those system templates. But also, uh, we have the option of companies creating their own templates. So, for example, if you have multiple customers that are alike and they have basically the same characteristics, and you onboard them, you can create your own templates and start from there, and you can give them the same information for everybody, or start from the templates and just edit small parts. For example, you can present them the theme in this way. You can have a couple of pages with about everybody in your team, in basically in their team if they are outsourcing to you.
Okay, cool.
You can
That's a
have
very nice feature.
yeah, we've seen this happen so far. Um, People creating profiles within their companies for their employees, and then duplicating those uh, profiles into different projects and onboarding customers that way. But not only that, it's not only about letting your customers who they're working with. It's also uh, a bunch of missed stuff that uh, you might not know beforehand. For example, how does your team work? If your customer doesn't pick the process, for example, Agile or Scrum or something like that, you might let them know how your team works, um, and how long are the sprints, what can they expect, how long were the velocity points before with other customers that are alike to them. What can they expect going forward? Setting expectations, especially in the beginning, having a new client, it's one of the most important things you can do as an agency, in my opinion.
I agree. Okay, so we actually have a question coming in. Let me take a quick second to read that question to you. So the first question is, I use Google Docs for my business. It works pretty well. I've set up a folder in my Google Drive. Why is your product a better solution?
Well, kudos to Google Docs. It's a great product, and it does fulfill some needs and basic needs for all companies, but it also has some weaknesses that Archbee addresses. Um, Basically, one of the major things that I noticed about Google Docs and Confluence is that it's very hard to organize and see your documents in the same place. You can have your Google folder, like you said, and have documents in there. But each time you're going to have to click on a document and it's going to open in a different window, and that's going to eat up your time. And at the same time, you're not going to be able to be updated as they are informed as they are updated. For example, in Archbee, if you're interested in a particular document, you can just hit subscribe and you'll receive notifications when that document gets updated. But to continue in the first thing that I mentioned, in Archbee, there's only one screen for the application. Everything is real time and really fast. Google Docs does very many things well, but not this one. They're very slow when you have to structure and organize the information.
Okay.
And it's actually very hard to find information. I don't know why they're the best search engine in the world, but when you search something in Google Docs, it always brings up stupid stuff, in my opinion.
Well, looks like you have a very good product that I think a lot of people can benefit from. I'm going to post a link into the comment section so that way people can start browsing the website, start taking a look at what your features are, and that way they can also come up with additional questions. So thank you for that question. Let's see what else we have. So another point that somebody brought up was, if they want to consolidate everything into one place, is there like a data cap? Is there any limits to what you're going to be offering in the lifetime deal that you're going to be bringing to us?
No, there's not going to be any cap. Once you buy a license from PitchGround for Archbee, you're not going to have any cap on documentation. Of course, there's a cap on documentation when you get a free plan. It's basically our free trial, our free version. So basically you have all the features in the application, and you have a cap of 20 documents so you can see how the software works in its entirety. But the licenses that we will sell on PitchGround are going to be full features.
Awesome.
Product.
Nice. And let's see. Oh, got another question coming in. So is it best for a internal based team, or can we also use it as like a public facing knowledge base?
It can serve both, actually. This is one of the main selling points of the software. Agencies particularly like it that they can share internal documentation with the outside world. And of course, you can appreciate not having to use and pay for two tools in this space and using something internally and something else externally. It's very hard on the productivity of your employees to do this. And it also costs you money to pay for two SaaS services to do this. But make a bit of a difference between how good is the internal part and how good is the external part. I would say the internal part is a bit better at this point. It has lots more features than the external part. But we are constantly getting feedback from customers and how they are using it, and we're gonna implement even more features for the external side. For example, one feature that we have coming is commenting on the external side, so your employees can, and your teammates can see the comments and improve the documentation from the inside.
Awesome. That sounds like a great feature. So talking about features, what's your roadmap looking like for the next 6 months to a year?
Yeah, so we have a couple of main things that we want to address, and one of the most requested features is one of the features that more companies use nowadays are data tables. So we currently have a table, but it's a basic table. You can add rows and columns, and you can add, let's say, information to it. And that's great, but sometimes you need more than that. Sometimes you need formatting columns, or maybe you need some sort of just basic Excel or basic Google Sheets. You want to have a column with only images and you want to have a column with only people that you mention in the data sheet. So it's basically the table version 2. We're still going to keep the basic table, but we're going to have this overpowered table. Another feature that we would like people to have is having native apps in their computers. It's basically easier when you have an app that you can click and you can see in your taskbar, and it also increases engagement. So it's a win-win. It's a win for us, and it's a win for our customers as well. So we plan to do that, build some native apps for macOS, for Linux, for Windows, and even for mobile. So that's a big milestone that's going to be here after, I think, the data table stuff. We're also going to integrate more systems into our software, because as I mentioned in the beginning, we are the missing piece in a triangle where we're basically the knowledge stuff. We need to integrate with real-time sync stuff and with planning software. For example, we already have integrations with Slack, which is a real-time sync, real-time communication. And we also have integrations with stuff like Trello. But as we progress and more and bigger teams come to us, like teams with 100 and 200 people, we've noticed that they have other systems in place because Trello doesn't work for them as well. So they might have Asana or Jira or ClickUp or even Monday or more advanced software. So we're going to build integrations for that so people can get full value out of the product.
Nice.
Also, Microsoft Teams is an upcoming integration, because Microsoft Teams is becoming very big in the enterprise space. So we wanna be there when the space grows.
That's awesome. So speaking about teams, how would like a team wiki feature work?
Can you please repeat the question?
Sure. Speaking about teams, how would a team wiki feature work?
How the team? So
Wiki.
I think that's actually a use case. It's not a feature. So it's not something you can go in the product and do. It's basically the way you use it.
Okay. So that's a question that somebody submitted. So can you go give us a little bit more detail about that?
Sure.
Like how would you set that up to be effective as a team wiki?
Yeah. So team wikis are generally stuff that maybe you need to let people know what the password for the Wi-Fi is, or how to build up their development environment, what commands they need to run and what software they need to install beforehand. Or they might need to know how should they respond to customer. And that's basically the wiki. It's called Team Wiki. It's basically still knowledge of the company, but it's a keyword that we target for people to reach us on SEO on Google. It's not something different from knowledge management.
Gotcha. So speaking of knowledge management, are there permission levels? Let's say I'm in the accounting department. I don't want to show the financials to the design department, for example. Are there permissions that you can set up so that only certain people can view certain docs?
Yes, definitely. So when you create a new workspace, you are a super admin to that workspace, and you can assign administrators, and administrators can create groups of people, and those groups of people can be assigned permissions to certain spaces in your Archbee workspace.
Okay.
And
then speaking about that, what kind of security do you have in place for Archbee?
well, it's a very modern type of security with the JWT. We use Google Cloud to secure all the data. It's encrypted at rest, encrypted in transit. I think me as an engineer, this is one of the main things I work for, to make sure the platform, because it's software as a service,
Hmm.
needs to have the highest security settings ever, so that people continue to trust us with their information in the cloud. It's a prerequisite uh, for making a software as a service work. And actually launched way later than I needed to, because I wanted to take care of this stuff and get it right before I launched. Be happy with the security of the platform.
Oh yeah, that's so important today, especially every other day you hear about this major corporation getting hacked. Um, Thousands, if not millions, of people losing their data. In the U.S. alone, uh, millions, if not billions, of dollars are lost because uh, not only is customer data being lost, companies are being sued by their own customers because of this. So it's very like refreshing to hear that you've taken the steps to lock down the Archbee system so that it doesn't get hacked or makes it very difficult to get hacked.
Yeah, the platform that we're using to host our system also helps a lot. So big shout out to Google Cloud, that uh, will not give you the whole thing, but will give you the basic blocks that you need to use to implement good security for
Yep.
your system.
So I have another question coming in. So this question is, why are, oh, actually, let me see. What are three reasons why Archbee is a better solution than the ones available? So maybe you can highlight one or two of your competitors and then let us know why your solution is better.
Sure. So you mentioned Google Docs in the beginning, but I don't consider Google Docs an actual competitor. The true competitors, I will just mention two, because, and I will mention the strongest of them, because I know I'm at that level, even better. So one of them is Confluence, and the other is Notion. Confluence is a mediocre product, in my opinion. I might be biased here, but uh, it's actually the opinion of many people. They're very frustrated with uh, how slow it is, but companies buy it because they buy it bundled with Jira, which is from the same company. So mediocre is actually a compliment for most software these days. So the software works. It's slow. It does the job. It's very mature. They started building the software in 2004 or 2005, so it has a lot of stuff going for them. But it's also, I would say, doesn't have the integrations and doesn't have the features that are needed today. For example, they just implemented real-time collaboration, and it doesn't even work right. Um, Software is slower. It doesn't have diagrams. For example, if you want to draw a diagram in Archbee, you can do it in the software itself.
Okay.
In Confluence, you have to set up a different system like Lucidchart or Draw.io, and you need to pay for Lucidchart if you want to have good diagramming. And then after you set up these two systems, you integrate them and still edit the diagram in Lucidchart. And then you click save on Lucidchart, and you then come back to Confluence to see the result. So these
That's not
are,
good.
yeah, this is a small example of why having an integrated software that has thought about these problems beforehand, and has thought about the, the modern team in 2020, not the modern team in the 2000s, which was which is what Confluence was made for. So
Okay.
nowadays we have larger teams, we have more specialization, we have a bunch of roles in the teams. You have software architects, you have software developers, you have QAs, you have designers, you have product managers, you have project managers, you have executives, you have VPs, and they also, all of them need different things to document stuff. And this is one of the main things that Archbee tries to do uh, better than stuff like Confluence. Just be really fast and integrate with modern tools, and what it can be done in-house, do it better than anybody else. The second competitor, I would say they have a great product. I'm very impressed, and I follow them every day, and uh, I have nothing but good words to say about them. Is Notion. So Notion is has a very big hype because it's definitely a good product. They have these data tables that I was mentioning, and we're gonna have them really soon. They're also a bit slow, but the product is it's very good. Uh, and I would say that the difference between Archbee and Notion is that they both do some things very good and some things mediocre. For example, Notion is still very generic. It's basically a glorified text editor that you can. They have this widget, the data widget, that it's something very good. So they have the data widget. We don't have the data widget, but we also have diagrams and API docs and change logs, and they don't have it. So I would say depends on your company on which tool you use, but I would say they're both a great choice.
Okay. So that actually brings up another point. Someone asked, can I use it while developing an app? Because you mentioned that developers can use Archbee for this purpose. So how would a developer use this to, let's say, track changes in their code or work with a team?
It's not specifically made to track changes in the code, but developers use it all the time, specifically for API docs. For example, most of the times the software that we're building today becomes a platform, and you have an API that other developers or other companies can use to build on top of. Or maybe you have a couple of teams working on the same big project, and they have these small chunks that they're working. And this kind of communication, letting them know how your architecture is set up or how your API docs is set up, that's very useful, and you can only do that in Archbee so far. So Confluence doesn't let you do it. Notion doesn't let you do it. It's actually one of the main strongest points in, I think, 70 or 80% of our customers are very technical teams, because no other tool is offering anything in this space, anything alike. So when you're developing an app, of course, you can collaborate with your team, letting them know what's up on the API docs and the architecture diagram. But also, if you are building a platform, you can share external docs in the same way, with the same features, with the same widgets that you would do it internally.
Cool, cool. All right, I think I have another question coming in. So let's see. So we already answered this, but this person probably missed the beginning. What's the use case for an agency? So if you could just like recap that for our new viewers joining us on the call right now. What are some use cases for agencies?
I would say they're pretty similar with use cases for other types of companies. Onboarding people, communicating asynchronously with your customers, building project documentation for your customers, building project documentation for other people down the line that will work on the same project, taking notes. You can take good notes for yourself and for your team in the software itself. And agencies, particularly smaller agencies, have singular people working on projects, or maybe 2 or 3 people. And they always like to organize themselves by taking notes. Sometimes they want to split up a bigger task in smaller tasks and work on them separately. This is another feature of the software that lets you do. It's a mini Trello board that you can use to organize your tasks and subtasks. Something related to agencies and their customers is that using software like this correctly will increase the trust that your customers give you. Because asynchronous communication gives you the chance of laying out your thoughts and structuring your thoughts in such way that uh, no other method of communication gives you. So for example, if somebody asks you, why did you pick a certain technology, or why did you pick Marketo instead of another marketing automation provider as an agency? When you respond directly and instantly, you're going to give a mediocre response. You're not going to be able to give a detailed and well thought out and structured response. Async communication lets you do this, and they're going to be impressed when you give them a very nice answer that's structured and easy to read.
Okay.
That's how. So this is one of the holy grails of building an agency, in my opinion. Just showing your customers the level the level that you're working at. This is the only way you're going to be able to get other customers from your current customers. Only if they show them you are top 2% or top 1%. If you show them how smart and how good and how structured your thoughts are, they're going to be a lot more likely to recommend you to another CEO of a company that they're working with, or another CTO of a company that wants to do outsourcing and pick you instead of somebody else, some other company.
Okay. So we have another question coming in. This is more about, I guess, like embedding images or videos. Will Archbee be able to host that video or that image, or does it have to be embedded from an external source?
Sure. For images, we host them ourselves. For videos, it's a bit different. It's a different ballpark, and we integrate with different systems like YouTube or Vimeo, and we're gonna bring more stuff like Vidyard and Loom together very soon. So video it's different, and I don't think people wanna have Archbee as a hosting for their videos.
Okay, that's a good answer. And then another question in that realm. I've seen some knowledge bases where people can embed like an audio clip. Again, is there any type of feature or capability within Archbee if you import it from like external source and embed it? Is that possible?
Right now, it's not possible, but I've heard this thing for a couple of customers recently, that it would be really nice to have just a recorder and just hit record and just embed it in the text there that you are writing. So I think this would be great, because it actually combines async communication with sync communication, and you don't have to write stuff. So I think that's going to make a great feature for us to develop in the future.
Awesome. And let's say I purchase a product today. What's the average time it takes to set up a document? Considering if we already have the contents available from another platform and I want to migrate to your company, how long would it take?
That's a very abstract question, but I would say copy and paste works very well right now, and depends on how large your knowledge base is. So if you have a very large knowledge base and you want to migrate to Archbee, contact us. We might be able to do something for you. If you are trying to migrate a small knowledge base, copy and paste works very well. Automatic importing from other stuff is in the works. We're trying to get a sense of our first 500 or 1,000 customers to see where they have this knowledge in. Because we're an early stage startup, our first 400 customers are not enough for us to get a feel of where we should invest this valuable time in.
Okay, wow, 400 customers. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
So speaking about your customers, as you've been growing your business, how are you scaling to make sure that your service stays reliable, it's always up, it doesn't crash or go down? What are you doing behind the scenes that you can share some insight about with our potential customers here from PitchGround?
Oh man, I could talk about this for hours. So I'm an engineer and I'm a software architect, and this is what I live for basically. Uh, I think it all starts with architecture. I'm not doing anything for the system to be up and have a great uptime. It actually has 99.99% uptime since we launched in late July last year, and none of that downtime is unplanned. So the 0.001% that the system was down, we had planned it. And it all starts with architecture, I would say. How do you set up a system that revives itself, that adds more blocks to itself when it needs to? How do you set up a system that removes blocks when the traffic is lower so that you don't pay as much? And it all starts with very modern technology like Kubernetes and Docker. So Kubernetes is a system, we use it since the beginning, that basically lets you scale up and down as you add customers without doing anything extraordinary. Just sometimes, I mean, most of the times it just scales by itself, adds more blocks. But if let's think you might have a Black Friday or something that brings a very big spike to your traffic. You can also do it manually and add 100 instances in a second.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I could talk all day about this. I hope I just given you the beginning of what you need to read forward if you're interested in Docker and Kubernetes and running your system in a cloud like Google.
right. So along the lines, this is also within that realm, I guess. So we have another question. What about backups? Do you back up copies of these knowledge bases or these company profiles? And is again, you answered the security question, but I guess people really are concerned about their data and how they can preserve it.
Yeah, so we don't do anything special for this. Google, I mean, I trust Google to do this for us. They back up our database each hour. And we keep all the backups from 2 months ago until now. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, it's we can afford to do this. We have great relationships with Google Cloud, and so far it's not a problem keeping all that many backups in our system.
That's amazing. So basically 2 months of backups and 24 backups per day, basically.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing. You don't hear many companies doing that.
Well, we don't do that. I'm not going to take the credit for it. It's how we set up Google Cloud, and I'll give them the credit for it, and I'll give them the trust to do it correctly.
Perfect. So that looks like that's the end of our questions. Let me just scroll through the chat. Let me see if there's any more new ones. Let's see. All right, it looks like that's the end of our questions. But to kind of get people excited about our next call on Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern, uh, you know, share with us what we're going to be talking about and why people should be excited about using Archbee.
Right. So on Monday, we're going to be talking about a lot of use cases and how actual companies and our customers are using our software to solve these problems that we've talked about today.
Awesome. So if you guys have a particular business that you would want Dragos to go into full detail on how to set up your knowledge base, please leave a comment below so that way we can serve you, help you make the best decision for your business and for your company. And we might even ask you to join us on the call. So if you're interested in finding out how you can get onboarded into Archbee, get step-by-step instructions or best recommendations from Dragos, make sure you leave a comment below. Tell us what your business is about. Tell us how big your business is and where you want to go with this type of software in your business. So without further ado, thank you for your time. Dragos, thank you for joining us again today. We're so excited for your launch on Tuesday. If you guys want to find out more, I'm going to leave a couple of links below in the chat so that way you guys can follow along, sign up for the next webinar, and be on our email list for when we launch on Tuesday. So thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you guys for listening, and really excited to be launching here with you. Let's see each other Monday and talk about the stuff that we haven't talked yet.
Awesome. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon.
You too, everybody. See you.